Welcome to Shalom World Podcast.
Welcome once again to Holy Cross Monastery in Rostrevor, County Down. And we continue our Lenten journey. Today I would like to speak about a woman whom Jesus told us everyone would be speaking about until the end of time. In St. Mark's Gospel, we hear how a woman at Bethany anointed Jesus. And in this way, she prepared him for the great saving act of his death, his burial, his resurrection. In Mark's Gospel, we are told that wherever the good news story would be recounted in the ages to come, what this woman accomplished for Jesus when she anointed him at Bethany would be remembered. So let's today try to understand something of the significance of her gesture. Perhaps that leads us to think about the significance of our gestures. The gestures we pose, or maybe the gestures we haven't posed that we could have posed in regard to others. Gestures are clearly something to which Jesus attached great importance. And we remember not only the words Jesus spoke, but many of the gestures he accomplished. Jesus wants us to pay attention to our gestures in life. The woman's gesture, when she anointed him at Bethany, Jesus said clearly, was a good work. So we're going to reflect today a little bit about our good works gestures. And Lent, of course, is a time when we are to seek God by prayer and fasting, and also the accomplishment of good works. According to the law of God, the law of Moses in the Old Testament, the people were to show their love for him and their willingness to honour him. And they were to do that by the honour that they showed one another. This is what Jesus wants to draw our attention to. This is what this story in Mark's Passion narrative wants to draw our attention to. The importance of loving and honouring God in the love and honour, the respect that we show to other people. Christ wants us, like the woman whose memory he told us we would recall in every generation, to care for others. Yes, we are called to anoint Christ as she did, seeking to comfort those around us who are suffering today. And in our world there are many people who suffer, and to long for gestures of loving kindness to be shown in their regard. We are called to show our love for Christ in the love that we show, we display for suffering people all around us. That's a very basic call of the gospel, and it's one which is echoed in so many places in the Gospels that we find in our New Testaments. As the story of the Passion goes on, we see how Jesus himself admitted and gave humble expression to his own real need, his desire and hope that others would be close to him in his moments of trial and struggle. And so if Jesus could have this need, it's legitimate for us to feel the need of others to be close to us and to help us in our moments of trial and struggle. Jesus opened his heart to Peter, James and John, you'll remember, by saying to them, "My soul is crushed by sorrow. I am overcome with sadness. Stay with me." He was saying to these three disciples, close associates, be there for me. Keep vigil with me. Watch with me. Those who are in caring professions will know how important it is to keep vigil with a suffering patient. Just being there with them and for them. Jesus evidently felt the need of other people's support, especially as he went through his agony. If Jesus needed human support to face up to his trials, surely we must need it all the more, and those around us must also need it. Is there not a call for us here to accept others' help shown to us in our hours of suffering? And also a call addressed to us to offer others our help, our support in their hours of trial, in their suffering. Meaningful human relationships are so important for all of us. This shouldn't surprise us. They were important for the God-man Jesus. He needed meaningful human relationships in his life. We need meaningful human relationships in ours. And relationships that express themselves through gestures of loving kindness. The end of Mark's passion narrative recounts for us yet another display of care and concern for Jesus, and this time displayed by a man, Joseph of Arimathea. You remember how after the death of Jesus, Joseph of Arimathea came to anoint his body. And that's also a gesture that we remember throughout the ages where the gospel story is recounted. I suggest that what we have here in these two anointings, that of the woman of Bethany, Joseph of Arimathea, after Jesus is taken down from the cross and laid in the tomb, what we have here are what is called in technical terms an inclusion. In exegesis we talk about inclusion, one story, something in between, and then we're reminded of what was told at the beginning by a story that resembles the story at the beginning. So it seems to me that what we have here is Mark wanting to draw our particular attention to both anointings of Jesus' body. And by that, the story of the woman at the outset and the story of Joseph at the end, what we've been reminded of is the importance for us at all times to be attentive to the suffering and needs of Christ, the sufferings and needs of Christ in other people. We are called, each one of us, the men and women we are, in the situations we find ourselves in life, to be for others a source of comfort, consolation, and strength. And we can signify that by gestures of anointing. We mightn't take oil to pour oil to anoint other people, but there are so many ways in which we can anoint the lives of others. But let's reflect a little bit on the significance of anointing with oil, and then we can maybe see how we can apply that in our lives. Oil in the Bible was seen to have a comforting significance. It was also seen to express friendship. One psalm likens our fellowship or friendship within the community of God's people to the pouring of oil upon each other's head. You remember that little Psalm 133, 132 in the Greek numbering. How good and how pleasant it is when brothers and sisters dwell together in fellowship and friendship. It's like oil being poured upon the head, running down upon the beard. Oil was seen as consoling. It had a soothing property, and it still has a soothing property in regard to pain. Think of how the battered person cared for by the Good Samaritan had his wounds tended to by the pouring of oil upon them. And finally, oil was seen as having strengthening power. Athletes going into the arena were anointed with oil to strengthen them. While we have particular attention drawn to these two inclusion stories, which we see Jesus ministered to, let us remark that this whole notion of anointing is one that runs throughout the Bible and is referred to in other Psalms. We even find it in the Good Shepherd Psalm as well. And we find it, of course, strongly emphasized in the story of Jesus' passion. Christ shows his compassionate love for us. He anoints our lives in so many ways. And He does that not least through the care and attention of other people in our regard. It seems to me that there is little or no point in celebrating the solemn commemoration of Christ's Passion if we're not willing to engage ourselves to care for Jesus and the suffering brothers and sisters we encounter each and every day as we make our way through life. Moreover, there would be no real point in seeking to honour the suffering Christ by reaching out to our suffering brothers and sisters if we didn't also have the humility and the grace, the graciousness that Jesus had to allow ourselves to be ministered to be cared for by others in our hours of need, suffering and pain. So may we, like Jesus, who was free enough within himself to allow his body to be anointed by that woman in Bethany, Jesus, who was also anointed by Joseph of Arimathea, may we allow ourselves to be anointed by others. And like that woman, like Joseph, may we also strive to anoint Jesus and the people we meet who need a gesture of loving care and kindness. Lord, source of anointing and grace, be with all of us on our life journey. May we allow ourselves to be anointed, and may we allow ourselves to be used by you to anoint others.
Shalom World Podcasts is now available on all online platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and others.